Hello, this is Fen, one of the writers and editors and actors and stuff of this podcast. Just to tell you, this is episode 275, which means we've been doing it for many years now. If this is your first episode, don't let the fact that we've got 275 episodes put you off. We have got many different series: medieval, Viking, World War One, gory, army, police. You can kind of just jump in anywhere and have a little bit of a listen. So, having said that, yeah, this is 275. My name is Matthieu. I was a charcoal burner. It's not a particularly important occupation when compared to most things. I didn't really make things that like kings wanted or needed. I didn't ride war horses, didn't carry a sword, I didn't know how to read. I simply cut wood. I stack it, I cover it with earth, and I set it alight, and then I wait. Patience. Charcoal making is patience. You put wood beneath the earth and allow it to burn without flame. Too much air and the whole thing catches and you lose your hard work. Too little air and the heart of the burn, well, it dies. You learn much in patience, to watch the smoke, its colour, its quality, its smell. You even learn to listen to the fire. Sounds strange, doesn't it? You learn that something can be burning beneath your feet even when there is nothing or little to see. My wife used to say that was why I was suited to the forest. I was patient. She was wrong. I was afraid of the forest. I wouldn't admit it to her, but I was. I'm not afraid in the way that children are of, like, the dark. No, it's not that I don't respect that the dark is something to be frightened of. It's just that there's a difference. Oh, the forest was far older than our village, older than the church. It was new, older than the names we had given the streams, hills, and paths. I mean, it's not evil. I didn't think it was evil. It simply did not care whether someone lived or died. Why did I say it for the forest? I mean, I'm saying the whole forest itself is one thing, that somehow it thinks and reacts, that all the beasts, budding things, and even the bare earth seem to communicate. I believe that's true, and, well, that was enough reason to respect it, the forest. I had two children, a boy and a girl. My son was 8, my daughter was 5. I'll not tell you the names, doesn't really matter. I do not like really saying them when I remember that night. Names are for calling people home, and I have spent many nights since then wondering whether I would ever have been able to call them home again. That evening I was very late. Not uncommon, but my wife has little patience. The charcoal burn had been damper than usual. It had taken much longer than expected. The last of the smoke was finally thinning, and the light between the trees had begun to turn grey. I remember thinking that my Greta would be angry. That's my wife. Not truly angry, just worried angry. The sort of anger a woman feels when the man she loves has frightened her. She hated me going in the forest. I smile when I think of it. I mean, I could almost hear her.
Matthieu!
Just my name. She could make it sound like a prayer or a curse. Both the prayer and the curse could hurt me.
Matthieu!
It's usually both. I sighed. I did not need an argument tonight. Well, to be honest, who needs an argument? So I picked up my axe, I slung a bundle of yesterday's charcoal over my shoulder, and I began walking home. I prayed as I walked. I always prayed in the forest, not because I thought God was especially interested in charcoal burners. I simply found that the forest made a man remember how small he actually is. I crossed myself. Lord, keep my family safe. The words, the words just disappeared amongst the trees, but I smiled. Keep my wife safe. Then I thought about my children and the little ones. The forest became silent. No sound. It was listening. I stopped. I'd not stopped on purpose. It just felt like the right thing to do in that moment. Then something moved. Something moved in the woods. It moved wrong. It didn't fit. I knew the woods. I knew I knew the sounds and the movement of it. I'd heard its narrative all my life. This was not a narrative of something that belonged to the forest. I worked hard to convince myself I was wrong. It was only a falling branch. I told myself that. A branch, falling. It had to be. The wind may have caught it. It may have just been weakened. Nothing more. I listened again. I listened hard. Nothing. So I continued the prayer. As I continued to walk my way home, God was listening to me. He would be there. He'd keep all of us safe. That was when I heard the footsteps. Footsteps really was a question because it was all that I could relate that noise to. Behind me, 1, 2, 3. I didn't like that. I stopped my prayer and the walk in fear, and the footsteps stopped. I took a slow look over my shoulder. There was nothing that walked. The trees stood black against the fading light. Anything could be in those shadows. No, I can't think like this. And then the hairs rose on the back of my neck. I was now uncomfortable. I waited. Nothing. I calmed my nerves, breathing deep. Then I laughed. Quietly, a nervous little laugh. You're getting old and jumpy, Matthieu. I touched a small wooden cross hanging around my neck. It was smooth and warm on my fingers. My wife had given it to me on the night we were married. The priest had blessed it, and I truly believed in that blessing. I believed in God. I believed that Christ watched over those of us who trusted in him, and I believed that whatever was in the forest could not take me from my family unless God allowed it. And he wouldn't. That thought comforted me for perhaps 30 seconds, and then I heard the footsteps again. They were closer. I turned. There was a thing standing on the path. It was horrendous and enormous. It had fur, antlers, many legs, and something like a bug's legs and beast and not looking at it now, it wasn't impossibly large, but it was some creature from a nightmare, and it looked to me with many differently sized eyes on a seemingly man-like face. It seemed to have to move its head to see me. The antlers were, its mouth was too big and the teeth were exposed. I looked at it. Neither of us moved. I whispered out a prayer. The thing flinched at the words. It screeched in pain, clicked some strange noise, and turned and simply walked away. I watched it melt into the shadows between the trees, and then I laughed. Not one of God's creatures, I said to the night. Christ protected me, I told the trees. My praying had worked. I crossed myself. I had faith. I had nothing to fear when in the Lord's protection. So I started walking again. I was mentally singing the Lord's praises. I was blessed in many ways. And then it appeared again from nowhere, further down the path. How did it get there so quickly? What am I going to do? What is it? Was there more than one? No. There could only be one of those things. I got the sense that it was again staring at me, in me. Its head and body moved. It clicked its presence. It was waiting. I stopped. It shuffled its limbs. I started the Lord's Prayer out loud, and the thing shuddered and cowered a little. I took one confident step forward. It took one step away. I frowned then smiled. I had heard stories about saints destroying evil things like this. Everyone had. The father in the village had told us about this. This was my chance to serve my God. The creature became more resolute. It now tried to stand tall, even as I spoke God's praise. Then it turned away and walked slowly away, as though I'd injured it, as though I was hurting it. In hindsight, I should have let it go. I should have turned around. I know that now, but I was thinking about home, about looking after my children, my wife, and my wife and children waiting for me. They needed to be safe. I could do this. It left the path, so I stupidly followed, and then it disappeared. I stopped. Go on then, demon, I shouted. Nothing. I laughed. You have frightened a Christian man, demon. And then that sounded foolish of me. I knew it, but saying it out loud made me feel better. I touched my cross again. You see, my God is with me. I walked now, confident to follow. The forest grew darker. The creature appeared once more, then disappeared, then appeared again, always ahead. Ha! It was frightened, always waiting. It was trying to get away. I should have realized it was just waiting. It was always just far enough away that I couldn't reach it, and then too late I realized it wasn't fleeing, it was leading me. It was leading me deeper into the unknown dark, which made me stop. No! I raised to the sky. The beast looked back. I took a step backwards. It didn't move. I took another step. It lowered its head. Not aggressively. Almost disappointed. I couldn't read anything of it, but the feeling I got was disappointment. That frightened me more than anything else it could have done. I turned. I'm not doing this. I'm going home. I now wanted only to be home. My children were waiting. I'd been foolish. I'd allowed it to lead me away from the path. It took 3 steps towards me, and then I heard something behind me, a sound very quiet, almost like a child crying. I froze. I turned. The creature was gone, but the crying continued. I knew that sound. It was the sound of my daughter made. It was the sound my daughter made when she'd been hurt. Oh, a little breath. A little whimper, then silence. I ran towards the sound. Branches struck my face, roots caught my feet. I wasn't thinking. I threw free the charcoal. I didn't care. I just ran to my daughter, my little girl. She was somewhere in the forest with that. How had she got here? Why was she here? Where was my son? Where was my wife? I screamed a name. Nothing. Then I heard it again, crying closer. I pushed through a wall of branches and stopped. There was nothing there, only trees. I stood breathing heavily. My heart was pounding. I whispered, Lord, please help me. Nothing. I looked around. Please, God. Still nothing. I touched my cross. It was cold. What's never cold to the touch? How was it cold? I began walking backwards slowly, carefully. The forest seemed to have changed. The trees looked different. They looked wrong. The path was gone. I couldn't remember which direction I'd come from. Then something moved between the trees. I saw eyes, many eyes. I raised my hand. Stay back! The eyes disappeared. I whispered the Lord's Prayer. I got as far as, Our Father, who art in heaven, before something moved behind me. I turned. Nothing. I continued, although my throat was struggling. It was so dry. Hallowed be thy name. Something breathed, not near me, far away, but I heard it, a long, slow breath. I stopped praying, then forced myself to continue. Thy kingdom come. The breathing stopped. I smiled, a ridiculous little smile. There, I whispered. See? God is with me. The forest said nothing. I walked. Thy will be done. My voice wavered in the night. A moment, and then something snapped behind me. I turned. Nothing. On earth. Another snap closer. As it is in heaven. I was now begging with my words. Something moved between the trees. I could not see it, but I knew it was there. I could feel it looking at me. I gripped the cross so tightly that it broke and crumbled in my hand. Give us this day our daily bread. The thing moved now towards me, around me. I turned slowly. Nothing again. Forgive us our trespasses. A branch moved, then another. Something was circling me, and forgive those. I couldn't finish. I was crying. I don't remember beginning to cry. I only remember realizing that tears were running down my face. Who trespass against us? I whispered the final words, and lead us. Not I knew I was failed, not into temptation. Silence. I breathed and I didn't know what to do, so I just fell to my knees. Please hear me, Lord, please, please deliver me from this evil. Nothing. And then something laughed at me. It wasn't a human laugh, it wasn't an animal, it was a wet, broken imitation of laughter. I don't know, it hurt. I fell backwards, my hand went to my mouth. No. I shook my head. No. I gripped the remains of the cross. Christ protects me, I said. The thing stopped. For a moment, I believed I'd been heard. Nothing then. Silence. I believed for a moment God had answered my prayer. Then a shape stepped between the trees. As I say, I don't really know how to describe what I saw. It was even different now than it had been. I've tried, God knows I've tried it. It had limbs that is too many of them, too long, hard. They seem to bend in places where limbs should not bend. It seemed every time it walked that the beast itself was in pain. Its body was dark, but not black. Black would have been easier. It was the colour of something that had been burned and then left wet. Its face, I do not know what its face was. I saw eyes, then I saw none, then I saw too many, and beneath those eyes was a mouth. It opened. It was no roar, no scream. It just simply opened, and from inside came my daughter's voice.
Papa.
I stopped breathing. The creature tilted its head.
Papa.
I began shaking. No, no, no. It seemed to smile. I think it smiled. The tear in its flesh that was its mouth smiled.
Papa?
I dropped the broken cross. I looked down at it, then at the creature, and something inside me broke. Because if God was watching, if Christ was watching, if heaven was watching, then surely they could hear a voice. Surely they knew what this thing was doing. Surely they would stop it, wouldn't they? I waited. Nothing happened. The creature moved hideously towards me. I didn't know what to do. I closed my eyes. I prepared for I don't know what I prepared for. Please. I don't know whether I was speaking to the creature or to God. Please. It came closer. Looking back on it, closing my eyes didn't help. So I opened them, and it was gone. I stood alone. I looked around. The forest was empty. The birds began to sing. The insects began their evening chorus. Even the wind blew fresh scented air. The trees looked like trees. I rolled to my belly and scrabbled through the brush. I found the remains of the cross, and for the first time in my life I looked at it and I wondered. I wondered at that cross. God, I wondered if God or his son were actually listening. Did he just save me, or I don't know what am I gonna get. I began to run. The brambles and the underbrush grabbed at me and hindered me. Lashing cuts and bruises caressed my body in some sort of, I don't know, self-flagellation. I don't remember much of the journey home. I just remember the village gate. I just remember falling. I remember people gathering around me. I remember my wife running to me, screaming my name. I remember my son. I remember my daughter, alive, both of them. They were alive and here. I grabbed them to me. I held them so tightly they cried. My wife kept asking what had happened. I couldn't answer. I don't know. Eventually she asked, was it the wolf beast? I looked towards the forest and then down at what had been the cross in my hand. No. I had to think. I looked at the church, at the cross above the door, that cross that meant so much to me before, and I realised I was afraid to look at it now. I don't know. Margretta took my hand. She held it against her warm cheek, her smile, her eyes were all I could see.
God protected you.
She said joyfully. I looked at her. She believed it. That hurt me. I could see that she believed it, and I don't think I did now. I I wanted to believe it. I wanted that faith more than anything, but somewhere beyond the village something moved amongst the trees, and I knew whatever had found me in the forest, it had followed me home. I looked at what had been that cross around my neck, and genuinely, for the first time in my life, I did not feel comforted by it. I felt nothing. And that frightened me more than any creature had. I had such a belief in God. But if God was there, why had I been so afraid? He, he, did he save me? Did he watch over me? Why did he make me go through that experience? Why did he bring this creature to our door? And if he wasn't listening, what had been listening when I prayed?
Belphastus the Unclaimed. I were waiting for him when he returned. Not in the village. That would have been unnecessary and prodigiously stupid. Not least of all because I were getting over a nasty bout of the shits from the previous night. I'd been drained like a septic tank on several occasions, and this morning I had an arsehole like a blood orange. I were constantly scratching at it, which would likely have attracted someone wanted attention. As with the smell, I was standing therefore amongst the cover of the trees, watching and awaiting, listening. Matthieu, for that were the victim's name, fell at the gate. That were a bit unfortunate. I'd rather hope for a more dramatic, screaming tragedy of an entrance. Still, can't get it right all the time, can I? His beautiful wife came a-running. His two wonderful children followed. His son were crying. Fucking wimp. His daughter were laughing. I don't know what that says about her, but it was rather irritating. It seems children are remarkably resilient to tragedy when they don't understand it. But soon even they would understand tragedy. The little girl threw herself at her father and into his thankful arms. He held her very tight and for slightly too long. So slightly too long that she complained and wiggled as if to escape. I watched him kiss her hair. Again. And again. And again. He were crying. Pathetic. His wife was crying too. Made her look in that moment yummily vulnerable. Ah, right. Now I get it. The little girls laughed at that. She just didn't understand why everyone else were crying and it made her feel awkward. She were obviously fucking stupid. As simple as she was, she simply hugged her father. It was fucking disgusting, to be honest. Fucking disgustingly beautiful. Nice emotions drained me, so I nearly fucked off. Pierre next to me vomited silently. Quite an impressive feat, if I'm honest. No, not the puking. I mean, he does that most of the time. The impressive bit with a silent part of it. Then the bastarding priest arrived. Father fucking bastarding Etienne. A very deeply bastarding pleasant man. I know. Deeply unpleasant is a common phrase. No one ever uses deeply pleasant. The bloody priest was, though, wasn't he? He were all the good things. Kind and patient and faithful. Exactly the sort of bastard I dislike. I almost joined Pierre in vomiting up my last meal. The priest put his hand on Matthieu's shuddering shoulder.
God has brought you home, my son,
I heard him say. Matthieu looked at him, and I saw it. Oh, it were beautiful. It was small. It was the smallest of hesitations, it were. A tiny thing. He exposed a teeny tiny moment. Almost nothing. But I felt it. A crack. Not in his body, but in his belief. That were delicious. It filled me with energy, that did. A moment of despair is so fulfilling, isn't it? I felt my postured eyes as a smile cracked my head. The priest continued speaking. He told Matthieu that Lord had protected him. No, he fucking hadn't. That his prayers had been heard. No, they fucking weren't. That God had watched over him in the darkness. Well, that were plainly total bollocks. And Matthieu nodded. He fucking lied. By which I mean, the nod were a lie. Oh, the electric thrill of it ran up my spine. This is what I needed. See, he wanted to believe what the priest was saying. That were the important part. He wanted to believe it. But he didn't no more, did he? Not fucking quite, he didn't. Something had beautifully changed in him. Had he discovered the most dangerous question a believer can ask? Not, does God exist? That question's too simple. The dangerous question is, if God exists, why the fuck did he let that happen? That question can feed generations. It can also fill me full of energy. I watched Matthieu look towards church. His face showed... It showed bitterness. Oh, that were fucking delightful. He couldn't bring himself to look at the cross. He dropped his eyes from it. His wife noticed this. She cupped his chin, raising his head so that their eyes met. God protected you, she smiled at him. He looked at her. His face gave no visible response, and said nothing. That were better than a proper argument. Arguments produce anger. Anger's useful, but doubt is patient. Like charcoal, it burns beneath the surface, without flame, without much smoke, until eventually there's fuck all left. I laughed quietly to myself. Oh, how wonderful this was, how this were playing out. Matthieu seemed to hear me. I mean, he couldn't, of course, could he? But nonetheless, he turned towards Forrest. His eyes widened. I weren't visible to him, but perhaps some part of him knew I were there. I raised one hand. I were being a bit cheeky like. I gave him a little fucking wave. And he crossed himself. Only out of habit, I believe, not out of faith. I laughed again. This time I whispered, "Not for long, you bastard."